Hello and welcome to the fourth instalment of Talking Grannies. Today we're going to have a go at a Swaledale Square, which is our take on a sunburst granny square. So the first three rounds, as you'll see, are literally in the round, and it's only the final round that makes it into a square. The first three rounds also, it might look complicated, but actually just use chain that we've been using, slip stitch and a treble, and it's only in the last round that we introduce a couple of new stitches, a half treble and a double treble, but don't panic, they're not that tricky. Right, so to start with, we're going to start with our oatmeal today, so I'll do one the same as the one that we've already got, and we're going to start in exactly the same way as we started for our other squares. So we start with a slip knot, and then we're going to chain 4, and we'll make that chain 4 into a little circle by putting the hook through the first chain, like a little smile, and pull it through. Okay, so that's the very beginning. So this round, okay, round 1, we're going to be working into that space in the middle of our circle that we've made. Poke your hook into it to make it into a little circle if that helps. I find it helps. Okay, so we're going to start with chain 3, and that counts as our first treble. And this round in the middle here is a total of, if you include the first 3 chains, a total of 16 trebles, all working into that hole in the middle that you've made. My ball of wool's done a roll and off it's gone, but that's okay. So trebles into the circle. So we can do 15 trebles so that it makes 16 in total, with the first chain 3 counting as a treble. So to treble, remember, you go yarn over, through the hole, yarn over and back through, so that we've got 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, so that's the treble. So for a total of 15 plus the chain 3, so that's 16. Now you can count as you go, or if you're yabbering away like I am, then once it feels like it's getting quite full, you're probably pretty much there but not quite. So you can treble away into your circle. 15 stitches is quite a lot going into this circle, so I almost get all the way around. We'll have a count and see how many we've got. Okay, I'm going to do one more. Okay, let's see what we've got. So I count my chain 3 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 2 more, 15, 16, because I counted my chain 3 at the beginning. Okay, so there we are, we've got a nice circle. Okay, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch into the top of my chain 3 to complete my circle. Pull through again, and snip it and fasten off. So pull it all the way through. Okay, and we can pull that middle thread, and it'll just pull the circle a little bit tighter. Okay, so round 2. In this round, we're going to actually work into the very top of the stitches, so not between the stitches like we've done before, but in the top. So if you look at the top of the stitch, you look here, you've got a little chain. So you're going to work underneath both of those, which is the top of your stitch, not between the stitch. If you go between the stitch, you're actually going underneath 3 threads, but if you just go under the top 2, that's into the top of the stitch. Okay, so with my pale blue, I'm going to throw it on the floor because that works quite well. Okay, so I'm going to join my yarn in with a slip stitch into the top of any of those stitches. You can see when I pulled it a bit, look, where it actually is. Okay, so I've done my slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, Right, so I've got my chain 3. I'm going to work into the top of the stitch. Okay, and I'm going to work 2 trebles into the top of every stitch going round. So I had 16 stitches in my first round. I'm going to have 2 in the top of every one going round. So I'm going to have 32 stitches. There's no chain between my groups of trebles here. I'm doing 2 trebles into the top of the stitches. If I pull it, look, you can see. So 2 trebles into the top. I think this Swaledale Square, our version of the Sunburst Granny Square, is perhaps one of my favourites. Really lovely one to play with colour with. Okay, so we're going round. It makes quite a nice dense square. Going all the way around. So you don't need to count this round because you're just literally doing 2 in the top of every stitch. Going round, round. Do make sure that you do 2 in every stitch, and you do have to look at where you're putting your hook, so it actually goes into the top of the stitch and not in between. Otherwise your circle will end up a little bit wonky. It will look a bit odd. Got my tail caught, just pull that behind. Okay, almost all the way around. It's making a really lovely circle. So 2 in that one. We've gone almost all the way around, so we've got back to where we started. And if you remember at the start, we just did a chain 3 into the stitch that we joined, so we need to do 1 treble into that space. And then we'll join into the top of that with a slip stitch and pull through again and fasten off. And that's round 2. So this granny square, which is actually like a granny circle I suppose in a way, Sunburst Granny Square, looks quite difficult and looks really quite different as well to the others that we've done, but so far all we've used are the same stitches, and the next round is going to be exactly the same. Okay, so in round 3 we're actually going to work into the spaces, so not into the top of the stitches anymore, but the spaces between the 2 trebles. Okay, so round 3 we're going to work in the spaces between our 2 treble clusters from the round before. So if I poke my hook in here, look, you can see where the space is. So I'm not going to work into the top of the stitches in this round, but between. So as always, join with a slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And in that same space where we've joined, I'm going to do 2 trebles. Okay, and then in each space around, so between our 2 trebles from the round before, we're going to do 3 trebles. So we're going to do a cluster of 3 trebles. So by the end of this round, you'll have 48 trebles if you count the first chain 3 as a treble, which we do. So in between, we're doing groups of 3 trebles. So it's still a circle, it's not a square yet. It's the magic of making it into a square happens in the very last round in this square. So I'm going to go all the way around. Just wiggle your hook in sometimes to make sure you're in the right space. You can pull it apart with your finger and thumb. Sunburst granny squares always seem to remind me of summer. I guess it's because it's got sun in there. They are quite a jolly square to do. Going all the way around, it feels like you're going round and round and round in circles with this one. But the end result is lovely. Pull my thread a bit. So if you do have any questions about any of the patterns that we're doing in this series of granny squares, please do comment on the post and we'll get back to you. We'll try and help as much as we can. And also please do share if you've made a sunburst granny square, a Swaledale or a Wharfdale or a Wensleydale or a classic granny. Please do share your pictures on our social media and use that hashtag Talking Grannies. Right, so we've got groups of 3. Let's have a look and see how far I've gone. Look, oh, more than halfway. That's good. I think granny squares really are the perfect start in crochet, because you can very, very quickly make a little square. And they're portable as well. I was on the train last week and I just took 4 small balls of wool with me and my hook in a little bag and made quite a pile of granny squares on my journeys. I wasn't going to take any crochet with me because I have my knitting, but I ended up not knitting because I've got a little bit addicted to crocheting granny squares again lately. Right, we're almost all the way around, so this is the last space. And then we're just going to join with a slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 on the first one that we did. So pull through again, and fasten off by pulling the tail all the way through. Look at that, lovely circle. Okay, so we've just got the squaring off to do. Okay, so round 4, the circle becomes a square and we're going to create corners. Okay, so round 4, to create the corners, we're going to work into the spaces between our 3 treble clusters. You might need to poke your hook in a little bit because there aren't any chains in between, but they are quite obvious where the spaces are. So we'll start in any space between a 3 treble, 2 3 trebles. Okay, and we'll join as always with a slip stitch. There we go. And then I'm going to chain 6, okay, because we've got to make quite pointy corners to make the circle into a square. So we're going to chain 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so this is going to be our first corner, and we're going to do 3 double trebles. Now a double treble, you just wrap the yarn once more around the hook. So you go once, twice, in through the space, yarn over and pull back through. So I've got, you can see I've got 4 loops on my hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Another one. So wrap it around twice, go into the corner, yarn over and pull back through. I've got 4 loops on my hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So it's exactly the same, but I'm just got one more lot of 2 that I pull through. So wrap it around twice, in through the hole, yarn over, 4 on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And it just makes a taller treble stitch. It's a double treble. Okay, so having done the corner, we're now going to work across the first side of our square. So in the next space, I'm going to do 3 trebles. So you're familiar with the trebles. 1, okay. Then in the next space, I'm going to do a half treble. Now a half treble, we start exactly the same as if we're doing a treble. So we yarn over, in through the space, yarn over, pull back through. So I've got my 3 hooks, 3 loops, sorry, on my hook. Yarn over, and instead of just pulling through 2, you pull through all 3 on the hook. And that's a half treble. So yarn over, 3, we're going to pull through all of them. This is a half treble. Then the next space we do trebles, 3 trebles, almost at the end of the side of this square. Okay, so we're going to do our double trebles into the corner. So we do 3 double trebles, and then 3 chain, 1, 2, 3, 3 double trebles into the same corner space. So there's a lot going on in this corner. I'll show you when oh, I've gone wrong there, sorry, that should be a double treble. Okay, so there we go. So there's your corner with your 2 groups of double trebles into the corner. Now you work around your square exactly as you've just done that side, so each side is the same. Okay, so we're going to go trebles, half trebles, trebles, double trebles. So this is my treble cluster in this space. Then the next space is a half treble cluster. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can see how we're starting to make it into a square. So I hope by now you're starting to see the way the stitches work to make squares. And we really haven't done too many different stitches. It's just all about how many times you wrap the yarn around your hook, and how many loops, sorry, you pull your yarn through. So when we've done all our different granny squares, we'll look at different things that you can do with granny squares, and I will also show you different ways that you can join your squares. There are lots of different ways of joining squares together to make a project. And I think, sorry, I was doing a half treble there, I'm not concentrating because I'm talking away. Right, I need to do a treble. Concentrate, Emma, concentrate. But I'll show you the different ways. Lots of people prefer the join as you go method. Some people like to crochet their squares together. Some people like to sew their squares together. And I'll show you all the different ways. I don't have a particular preference, actually. It depends what I'm doing. I mean, crocheting them together as you go can be a quick way of your project growing. But there's also something rather satisfying about having a little pile of granny squares grow. And if you're just doing individual granny squares, not joining as you go, it makes a very portable project, because you don't have to take a whole blanket or a whole bag or whatever it is that you're making with you. Everywhere you go, you can just take enough to make a couple of squares. So it really does just fit in a pocket or in a bag. You'd have to have quite big pockets, I guess, really. But right, so we're on the last side now. And of course, as always, when you get to the end, you've got all your ends to sew in, which, see it as the icing on the cake rather than I've got to sew the ends in. It can be quite satisfying to have a little pile of ends that you've sewn in and snipped off. And I put if I'm crocheting with 100% wool, which this is, I put all my snippings and bits in the compost heap. Right, okay, so we've got back to the last corner, and I've just done 2 double trebles into that space where we started off with our chain, and then I'm going to slip into the top of the chain space there and pull through. And that is the Swaledale Granny Square. Let's pull it through. And there you go. Rather lovely, I think. I hope you've enjoyed that, and good luck with all your Swaledales. Looking forward to seeing them. Bye.